I'd like to do a quick review of this Extech EX330 model multimeter. This thing goes for about $50 to $60. So it's for that price range, you wouldn't expect something equal to a Fluke. Definitely not a advanced multimeter, but I think it's perfect for beginners. So let's start with the physical construction. It definitely feels very solid. It definitely feels like it would survive a drop to the ground or something. It is not waterproof. I believe the model that the EX550 or something like that, it costs around $70 to $80. It's sort of a step higher on the quality tier of these Extech meters. I believe that one is actually waterproof. It's got O-rings and whatnot. It's protected by this orange rubber grip here, and one of the first things you notice is that the kickstand back here is actually built into the grip itself and not the hard plastic underneath. So basically that means that you can push the kickstand a bit past the intended end position. There's no definitive end stop here, and I definitely don't like that. Although I don't use the kickstand very much. Personally, I wish that they had just done away with the kickstand and made this all rubber. It would have saved a few bucks, and honestly, with a kickstand that is this kind of poor quality, no one's going to use this anyways. So I don't like this kickstand. So if we remove the rubber covering, which you can do, you'll see that the kickstand is in fact built into here, and you could just pop it right off. So that's of questionable build quality. But other than that, if we put that aside, this the main body of the multimeter is very nice. It's very hard plastic. If we flip to the back here, you'll see that the battery and fuse compartment is held on by a single screw. If we remove that compartment, you'll see that this here is actually, the screw hole is actually metal threaded. So that's very nice. I mean, the other three screw holes which hold on the back cover, this here, and one down here, which is actually protected by the cover, those are just plain self-tappers, but they chose the one that the user would logically be unscrewing the most, and they metal thread that. I like that. And you can see the fuses and the batteries, the AAA batteries, are both here, accessible. If we take the back cover off, you can see that here they've, along the edge, they have this U-shaped groove which mates with the back cover, and that adds a lot of structural stability. Also, if you take a look at these banana jacks for the probes, these are very nice, sort of stamped metal kind, and unlike some of the cheaper multimeters, if you take the probe and insert it and watch it while you insert it, you saw it move a bit, but some of these the cheaper multimeters, these jacks will actually fly right up when you insert the jack. So these are, for the price range, these the physical construction, these jacks, that's definitely pretty nice. So next, let's take a look at the included multimeter probes, and these things are about 2 meters long, and that's the preferred length of multimeter probes. I guess that's personal preference. Seems a bit long to me. But if you're working with that's because I usually use this for mostly breadboard work. But that's a matter of personal preference. And one of the most interesting things here is that when it ships, it comes with these plastic protector caps for these multimeter probes, and as you can see, the probe is already shrouded, and the tip of the banana plug in here is also insulated. So these definitely wouldn't be used for electrical protection. My guess is that they're to prevent moisture or dust I'm not sure. These are, I think they're a bit redundant, so they're a bit annoying to remove and insert every time. So I'll probably just toss them into some bin and forget about them. Aside from that, one of the more interesting things is that, as you can see on these probes here, these probes are very nice and long. I don't know if the camera can pick up the writing there. It's etched on the side, 10 amps. These are rated for 10 amps. They've got this nice ridge section with a end stop here. That's very nice. And you can see here it says it's rated for category 2 at 1000 volts, and it's got this very long exposed metal section, probe section. And it comes with these plastic caps, which you can snap on. And now it says it's rated for category 3 at 1000 volts and category 4 at 600 volts, and it's just this tiny little exposed metal tip here. Now, I won't be working with 1000 volts, thank you very much. But the nice thing about those probe covers is that if you got a breadboard here, oftentimes you'll have a bunch of long exposed resistor leads, and if you try and get in there, let's see, zoom in a bit. If you try and get in there with just these long exposed leads, you can easily short things out, and that can lead to bad things happening. But if you have this handy dandy cover here, you can you gain a much higher degree of accuracy when you're trying to probe things, which is nice. Taking a look at the selector dial right there should tell you it's got 10 amps range, milliamps range, microamps range, which is not present on a lot of cheaper multimeters. It's got your diode, resistance, continuity, capacitance, AC and DC voltages, which have separate sections. It's got your duty cycle and frequency, which no one really uses, and it's got temperature, which is very nice. I'll go into that in a second. And this big yellow button labeled up here, NCV, that's a non-contact voltage detector. And basically, if you, this up here, if you ever worked with one of those voltage detector pens, you bring it near a live mains voltage, and it goes crazy and beeps and makes bright lights and whatnot. And same thing here. As you can see, if you hold this button down and if you bring it near mains, it will tell you, and that is quite a handy feature. Another thing, the continuity tester. This is not a latching continuity tester. It's one of those finicky types that it sounds as if the speaker's having a tough time making a sound. And the other good thing about this is that it responds quite quickly. Some of those latching multimeters with latching continuity testers, they will you'll have to hold it there for a second before they'll actually make a sound. But this one, it's instantaneous. Yes, that's I can live with that. And here's just the non-contact voltage detector. You can see you hold the button, and it begins to kind of chirp on based on its proximity to mains voltage. That's quite nice. Works fine. Now, if you see the probe jacks here, there are only 3 holes, and that's because there's a separate hole for the 10 amps range, a common jack. And the current, the microamps and milliamps current measurements, those are combined with the voltage and the resistance and everything else. I don't like that. I guess they were trying to save space maybe, or save money. I don't like that. As it says on the label, this one, the voltage and milliamps and microamps and resistance and everything else, that's fused at 400 milliamps. The actual fuse is a 500 milliamp fast flow fuse. On the other side, it's fused at 10 amps, and that's a 10 amp fast blow fuse. Both fuses are just your standard 5x20 millimeter size, so you should be able to pick those up for relatively cheap in case you ever blow those out. Now let's take a look at the display up here. It's got very nice tall high contrast digits. That's probably one of the best displays you'll see on a multimeter of this price range. Moving on to the 4 buttons here, you have a relative mode. So let's see. Yes, you can basically, that's a very important feature, basically resets it to 0 relative to whatever it was at the time you pressed the button. It has a mode button for anything with combined modes, such as that resistance section. It has your manual ranging. That's also a very important feature for any multimeter. And it has one of those weird hold switches that don't really work. The higher end multimeters will actually have a real hold switch, but this one, it kind of just takes basically a screenshot of whatever's on the screen right now, and that's not very useful. The higher end ones will actually, I'm not quite sure of the algorithm, but whenever you take a new measurement, it will hold that number on the screen, so you don't have to look back and forth at your project or whatever and the actual multimeter's display. Now let's take a look at the temperature mode it's got here. It's got Fahrenheit and Celsius modes. Honestly, I'm not sure why those two have separate settings and why they wouldn't just be combined with the mode button. Especially since something like the resistance and diode capacitance thing, that, I mean, maybe separating capacitance into a separate slot in the selector switch, that would make probably more sense than to have separate slots, separate positions for the Fahrenheit and Celsius. But yeah, whatever. It comes with this thermocoupler probe, type K thermocoupler probe, and a adapter to plug it into the multimeter, because normally these things have these weird 2-prong connectors. Now, there's a huge complaint I have with these, because this one you're seeing here is actually a replacement they sent me. And here we have the original. Look at that. The insulation, you'll see this white insulation is actually a high temperature, a heat resistant woven insulation layer. And if you look here, I gently pulled on this cord, just very gently. It wasn't, I didn't try to pull it out of the multimeter by the cord, that would be silly. It was just a gentle pull, and the insulation actually came out of the connector here. Now, it wasn't as bad as this when this first occurred. There is a bit of fraying because this is a woven insulation. But this the insulation isn't attached to anything in this connector. I don't like that at all. That's silly. That's silly. It is rated for -22 to 572 degrees Fahrenheit, or up to 300 degrees Celsius, so unfortunately you cannot use this to measure the temperature of a soldering iron. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And if you just take a look, oh, I overshot at the other end, it's just one of these bead types. It doesn't have the actual proper, like, temperature probe rod thing. It's just a little bead of some kind of metal compound, and a bit of heat shrink. Now, I'm not sure of the exact way these work, but I believe it's 2 different metal compounds placed together, and they generate a voltage gradient when exposed to a temperature. I'm not sure of the exact way it works, but it's a temperature probe. And you should know that these things are not particularly accurate, these thermocoupler probes. If you want an accurate one, you're going to spend at least $50 on a proper probe. This is probably just for measuring ambient temperature and telling if something's too hot to touch. These things cost, I believe, maybe $2 or $3 on Amazon. They're definitely not expensive. So overall, I think this is quite a nice beginner's multimeter. It's got all the functions you need, plus the temperature, which is a nice gimmick. It does have a few quirks, such as the combined current and the combined current jack, and the finicky kickstand. But I think overall, for the price, you can't get much better than this.